Hi, I'm Joel Stoner. Today I'm doing a microphone shootout between 4 different microphones, starting with the Samson C01, which lists for $79. I've got a Warm Audio 47 Junior, which is their remake of a Neumann 47 FET. List price on that's $299. This is an AKG 414 XL2. List price $1,099. And then I've got a Newman TLM 103, list price $1,300. The reason I'm doing this is I bought a pair of these Samsons about 10 years ago to do a quick and dirty stereo recording. It did a pretty good job, actually. And then soon after, I just started using it for kind of casual voiceovers here at my desk. More recently, I started to do a lot of voiceovers, and it seemed like I should up my microphone game a little bit. So I went out and bought 414. Which was one of my favorite mics when I was working a lot as a recording engineer. It's very versatile, great sounding mic. So that's the first one I bought. I did an A/B comparison between the $1,099 mic and the $79 mic, and much to my surprise, I like the $79 mic better. On my voice in this room for the purpose of voiceover, it just worked better to my ears. So I sent that 414 back, and then I thought, maybe I got a bad one, let me order another one. And then I thought, well, since I'm ordering mics, why don't I order a couple others and then do a shootout and see which one really works. So I did the same thing again with this 414, and I kind of came to the same conclusion about that. I like this one better. And then I listened to the Warm Audio. I had the same feeling about that and ended up with the TLM 103. Of course, it's the most interesting mic, most expensive mic, I should say. But the most interesting thing is that it came down to the cheapest mic, $79, and the most expensive of this set for $1,300. So next I'm going to do a little recording test and playback. Some other info is all 4 mics are plugged into a PreSonus Quantum 2626, which is their new Thunderbolt 3 audio interface. It's super fast, so I recommend it. It's also got MIDI in and out. So there's going to be no EQ on any of the mics for comparison, and I will put a little compressor on the mix bus because most voiceovers are compressed a little bit, and I also just want to help with the compression before you guys hear it. There's going to be some, in YouTube or wherever, so I want to get the compression nice here first. One other bit. Oh yeah, all the mics are level mic'd and are level matched, and the compressor will help with any minor subtle differences there. So I'm going to reset. I'm going to put my voiceover shroud around the mics here, and then I'll turn on the mic from my laptop, and we'll take a listen. Talk to you soon. Here I am in my voiceover shroud, which is really just a packing blanket hanging from the ceiling. I've got Pro Tools recording. I've got Camtasia recording, so let's see if this all works. I forgot to mention before, we were listening to the mic of the iPhone, and now we're listening to one of these mics. Actually, we're listening to the TLM 103. So I'm going to read a little thing, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to play it back, because in my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just 2 mics to make it easy to perceive the subtle difference between just 2 mics. Then pick the winner of those 2 and compare with a third, and so on. As I'm listening, I like to focus on different frequency ranges. How does the low end sound, the mid-range, the high end? Sibilance, presence, richness, depth, tone, color, etc. Now that I've got some source material, I'll go back solo up each mic, keep your eye on the solo button, and then we'll do a comparison. Here we go. Stopping recording in Pro Tools. Going to go back to around here, let's say. So I'm going to grab a nice little region here, put it on loop, and we're going to start with the TLM. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just 2 mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just 2 mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. Okay, to me, the TLM 103 sounds better. It sounds a little bit louder, so I'm going to just pull it down a shade. I'm not sure why it's louder. They are level match. That's kind of indicative. But it just has a little bit more presence. Now that I've done another level adjustment, I'm going to play again, starting with the TLM. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. By the way, that's fan noise on my laptop, which just started doing that, so sorry about that. 414. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. Okay, so to me the TLM wins there. There's an airplane flying overhead. The level of the TLM is lower, but somehow it sounds louder and brighter. So now I'm going to compare the warm audio to the TLM, starting with the warm audio. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. All right, so to me, the warm audio 47 definitely sounds very warm. For me, it doesn't have enough of the brightness that the TLM does, which also gives a lot of definition to the low end of the voice that I'm hearing in my mind. So, so far we're at the TLM 103 as the winner in my opinion. So now I'm going to play the same range again. Let's get that loop going. And this time I'm going to start with the TLM 103 and I'll switch to the Samson. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. In my preliminary testing, I found it's easier to make mic comparisons by looping short phrases and switching back and forth between just two mics. Okay, so to me, those are fairly similar in terms of brightness, but the brightness of the Samson to me sounds kind of more metallic, whereas the TLM 103 has maybe more of a airy, sweet sound to it, in my opinion. So as I mentioned early, I had already kind of come to the conclusion that I like the TLM 103, and I think there you have it. Please let me know your thoughts. You know, one comment is that the TLM is bright, and the human ear tends to like bright sounds, or think of them as better or more hi-fi or something like that. But what I found with the TLM, listening to my voices again, that high end is somehow giving more definition to the low end. So if I go to the 414, to me that just sounds a little muffled. This one sounds, the warm audio sounds a little more muffled. The Samson comes right back up, especially when you say Samson, you can really hear the S's. And I'm going to try saying Samson on the Newman, the Samson. It's a less of a harsh, it's a less harsh brightness. So there we are. To me, I think that the top two mics are the Samson and the TLM. There is a huge price difference between them, a $1,200 price difference between them. So good job, Samson. If you need a good cheap mic, that's the one. The 414, surprised me. I thought it would be right up there with them. It's good. It's definitely very good for a lot of things. Just for my voice to my ear in this space, the TLM 103 sounds best. And the Warm Audio 47 Junior, also, I think, adequate, but just a little bit too, quote, warm for what I'm looking for right now. So thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something. Hope I wasn't too boring. Share your comments down below. See you soon.